Welcome guys, Nolar here. We're back with 5-9 and continuing on Mortal Kombat week. So the other day we did Mortal Kombat, the 1995 movie, and now we're going to continue on with the sequel. But again, I'm joined by Tystra. Tystra, say hello to the boys.
What is up, everybody?
All right, so if you guys are new here and like the content, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you know when we're live with 5-9 videos, and leave a comment and all that kind of stuff. So, let us know what your thoughts are about this particular movie, which let's get right in it. So we covered Mortal Kombat, the 1995 version, and it was actually fairly successful. So I'm gonna get into some technical terms with the numbers and stuff. So to give you an idea of how the movie industry works and why things operate the way they do. So, the budget for the original Mortal Kombat movie was $20 million. It made an international gross of $121 million. And so you must be like, oh, cool, they made $100 million. Well, not really. You got to take into account that at least today's age, the theaters usually take anywhere from 30 to 33% of the movie's revenues because they're showing it. And then on top of that, you got to remember there's a marketing budget. So people can actually go see your movie, and give you money for it. So if we do the quick math, dirty math, marketing numbers aren't really out there. Like I could tell you the budget of a movie, how much it made overall, but no one really explains the marketing numbers. So I'm gonna throw a guess here that was 10 to 15 million bucks. So 121 million minus 20 million for your budget, minus 40 million, which is about a third of what the theater's cut was, minus, let's say on the upper end, $15 million for marketing. New Line, the studio, took home $46 million overall. That's pretty good. So that's why we got Mortal Kombat Annihilation. All right, so when they decided to bring this going, they asked Paul Anderson to come back, the director, but he decided not to come back and work on another project, and at the time it was the excellent cult classic space horror known as Event Horizon. However, as you'll see through our review, Paul Anderson learned that he needs to shepherd the franchise down the line fully, which is why he actually has stuck with the Resident Evil franchise, which Heister just learned the other day that Paul Anderson, the director of this movie, also directed all of the Resident Evil movies. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a major surprise to me.
Yeah, so they couldn't get Paul Anderson to come back to direct it, so they asked someone else. They actually asked the director of photography from the last Mortal Kombat movie, John Leonetti. And you'll know him as the DP of other movies like Annabelle, The Conjuring, and Insidious. So, all right, we're going to take you through the plot. And Tystra is going to remember how fondly ever the plot of this movie and how some of that played out. So, the Annihilation takes place immediately after the events of the first movie, where Earth's heroes successfully fought off Shang Tsung and Outworld, and they've gone home to celebrate. But at the very end of the first Mortal Kombat movie, Shao Kahn from the sky just decides to be like, invaded you anyways, even though this is going to break all the sacred rules. So, right from the get-go, we have this terrible CG scene of just faceless enemies flying and dropping out of the sky, ready to start their invasion. And this is where we see our heroes. Some who are very familiar, because they're in the last movie, like Liu Kang and Katana. And we have some new faces on some of the old heroes. For example, Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage, and even Lord Raiden. Did you catch that the first time, Tystra, where you saw them and then you're like, wait, these guys look different?
No, not entirely as a kid, but I did kind of notice that when I was going through the second movie last week. I was like, it seems a little weird that they look that much different when it was only like, I don't think the shooting for the movie was like too much of a gap.
Yeah, so the first movie came out in 95 and the second movie came out in 97. More than likely, it was just some contractual things, at the time. Right. Like now we understand it. Like we're a little older, we get that like contracts are there. People get slated for other movies, or people just turn down a job. It happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Sonya Blade in the first movie was Bridget Wilson-Sampras, and now it's Sandra Hess. Johnny Cage was played by Lyndon Ashbury in the first one, but we got Chris Conrad. Now, just spoiler alert, Johnny Cage dies within like one punch from Shao Kahn in the first like 8 minutes of the movie or 5 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, he gets punched, and then it's like, oh well, I'll take me instead. You know, Raiden's like that, and then Shao Kahn's like, you thought, and just freaking snaps Johnny's neck.
Yeah,
It was just crazy.
Yeah, and so we'll get to it here in a second. But the other person we wanted to bring home was Christopher Lambert isn't here anymore. It's James Remar. And you guys might know James Remar now. He's the guy from Sex and the City, and he's Dexter's dad, right? So like, when I see James Remar, I'm like, he's not Christopher Lambert. Didn't really home that home, but yeah, it's really awkward when it was just like, oh, we're just starting off from the continuation of the last one, and we just all of a sudden got changes in actors. It was just kind of weird. But all right, so getting back to the story here. So Lord Raiden and Shao Kahn, they start fighting each other, and the cuts and the shots, man, like the CGI here, they didn't need to do like the whole CG, the background of like the gray skies and the thunder and all that stuff. They could have just done like close-ups on their faces, but they decided to really lay thick on the CGI. Once I saw that, that started to take me out of the movie, because I was like, you know, I'm 10, 11 at that point, and I'm like in the movie, right? But when I see that, I'm like, oh, that looks real bad. What about you?
See, for me as a kid, I loved it. Like, I guess just Tiny Goldfish Braden Tystra when he was younger didn't realize what was going on. But when I watched it last week, I so cringy. It was so bad. Oh my god.
Too bad you will die.
I mean, to be fair though, how much of it is just the technology at the time? It was 1996, 95, 96, right?
Yeah.
CG hasn't, I mean, within 5 years, CG went from Mortal Kombat to The Matrix, right? So like, you know, I can't really blame them too much, but at the same time, it's like, you guys could have really cut down on that, you know, in retrospect, and done some like better, different techniques or shots or something. But yeah. So, anyways, so Lord Raiden and Shao Kahn, they end their fight, and then the Earth's heroes, they run away, right? They just have to escape. So they escape the horde and they go underground, where they find these underground tunnels. Like, what the hell was that in the game? Like those underground tunnels,
No.
or is this the stuff made up just for the movie?
No, this was just a movie thing. These underground tunnels with the ball was like, that was what was strange to me. Rewatching it, I was like, I completely forgot about this, because this is never mentioned. At least from all the games that I played and the lore that I know about, this is never mentioned in any of it. So it was weird, because like, I'm like, that's cool, I guess, but at the same time, no, they got Raiden to teleport them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense to me.
For whatever reason, like, I'm trying to justify it, and in my head, you could probably take that out, and like you said, just put Lord Raiden teleporting them, and it would have been fine. But hey, we got some neat CG scenes, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. So, all right, right after this part, they show us Shao Kahn. Now, the weirdest thing here is they just showed this balded dude sitting at the top, and it was just like the back of his head, or the profile of his face, right? And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And it wasn't until he starts talking that I realized, oh, this is the cheesy Shao Kahn.
Father, the merger has begun. Earth is under attack, and it is glorious!
So like, I wish they actually did something where they like show him with his outfit, he takes off the helmet, he takes off his garb, you know what I mean, just to cement that this is the guy. But instead it's just like, oh, here's this random dude, bald dude, who you have no idea who it is until like 20 seconds later he starts talking, and then you're like, oh yeah. And then yeah, so you were saying that this was the next person that gets introduced is Shinnok, and you're like, this doesn't look like Shinnok, right?
No, absolutely not. Like, what's funny is, like, younger me didn't know about Shinnok, and like only heard the name and was like, blah. Rewatching this last week, I was like, this is Shinnok? Like, shit. Like, geek, if you can't put 1 and 1, put the pictures in there, because it's just it's day and night from what Shinnok actually looks like in the games.
Yeah, the funny thing is, when I saw him when I was a kid, I was like, okay, whatever, right? It is what it is. But now I look at it and I'm like, that looks like Medivh from World of Warcraft. Like, that's.
You were saying that. Oh,
Yeah, I know.
It's so bad, man.
So, anyways, they're talking to each other and they're saying this invasion breaks the rules, but the rules don't matter if you're going to win and do it successfully, right? So, now we know Katana and Liu Kang are there to find Nightwolf. I think Raiden sends Liu Kang out to see Nightwolf, and then Raiden and Sonya. Well, Raiden's going off on his own path to talk to the Elder Gods, and Sonya's trying to find Jax, her buddy. So Katana and Liu Kang having an intimate moment, and then all of a sudden more faceless enemies show up to try to kidnap Katana. The next fight ensues where we have Smoke fighting Liu Kang, and the actual choreography was actually pretty decent, I was gonna say, but some stuff was like really over the top. Like, do you remember when Smoke was trying to shoot his missile? And then Liu Kang's like, oh, I better get out of this. And then he just he like runs forward, then backflips over the missile when it hits the thing.
Like a shooting star press over the missile.
Yeah, and I'm like,
some of the flipping in that scene in general was just over the top.
Yeah. And look, if you embrace the cheesiness, sure, but like at some point, there's like a fine balance between when something's awesome, like it's cheesy, but it's awesome, and then it's so cheesy, it takes you out of your suspension of disbelief, and you're just like, okay, this is bad, right? And unfortunately, Mortal Kombat Annihilation has got a lot of those moments where it's just like, okay, this is just bad. But yeah, anyway, so Sub-Zero's brother comes back and saves them from Smoke. Didn't realize Sub-Zero had a brother. They could have done some kind of exposition, but okay. And then Scorpion's here. How the hell is he alive? Like, what just happened?
Well, Scorpion's dead in general, so it's like he always comes back.
Oh, that's true.
Regardless, yeah, because of Quan Chi's magic. So
that's right. So, anyways, the fight between Scorpion and the younger Sub-Zero is actually pretty cool because it's got actual like CGI scenes from the games at the time. I think the Mortal Kombat 3 just came out, and like there was that one thing where Sub-Zero could like back roll but make a replica of himself, and so you had that happen in the movie, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean overall like good fan service, but in the end it's just a fight, and afterwards Sub-Zero almost like falls off the cliff and he's about to die, and Liu Kang's gonna save him, and of course he leaves Katana vulnerable. Scorpion teleports behind her and takes her, and yeah, that scene right there, that CGI didn't look good at all. But we had it.
weird.
All right, what's the next part of the movie? Oh, right. So Sonya, we're now cutting to Sonya. She finds Jax. All right, but this is your biggest grievance here, right, Tystra? Jax still has his arms.
Yeah. So Jax didn't lose his arms or anything. All it is that it's a little like cozy for his arms to make him look all shiny and buff. Like, it's I was so mad when I rewatched this. I was like, oh yeah, he has slip-on arms that literally just go over his normal arms. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I think they were trying to, and you'll see this at the end, they were trying to do this whole like lesson learned that you don't need any enhancements to be the best of yourself. You just be you, right? I mean, I think it was Raiden that made that point.
What's the deal with your arms? You have real skills, but those arms are not your strength, they're your weakness. Faith in yourself is all you need.
Early on was like, hey, you just gotta be you. You don't need this extra stuff. And of course we're like, but you know, Jax is supposed to have no arms and he needs like a replacement arms. Anyways, I agree with you. Stupid decision. But next we've got, is it Cyrax that comes by and starts fighting them? Cyrax? Okay, so they're fighting him, and again, the fights themselves were pretty good, but the CGI where like Cyrax is like putting out poison, looks awful.
Yeah, the poison was so bad.
yeah, it's real bad. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's so terrible because it's like you couldn't tell if it was acid or if it was like some sort of webbing or what exactly it was. Like it just didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, no, it didn't look good at all. And then Sonya blows some like chemical fire powder to help explode him. Again, CGI doesn't look fantastic, but here we are. All right, so we're cutting back to Liu Kang, right? So he lost Katana, and he's trying to find Nightwolf to learn some stuff to how to defeat Shao Kahn. And this is when it first introduced animalities. So like they had an actual wolf, like show or animatronic wolf, one of the two, not a CGI version. But then they did the CGI version of the wolf transforming back into Nightwolf, and it looks bad. It looks bad. Like I understand what they're trying to do with the whole animality stuff, like introduce a new layer to really spice it up.
Pretty cool, huh? It's my animality.
But man, the technology wasn't there. Like it just wasn't there.
They had bright ideas, but nothing that could actually make it like come to life.
Yeah.
It was bad, so bad.
All right, so the next little bit, we've got Sonya and Jax trying to find Lord Raiden, but then Melina encounters them, and we have what I call an amazing fight sequence. All right, the choreography itself was pretty decent, but it's amazing because we have two women fighting each other in basically a mud pit. Like, what else could you ask for, right?
Strict just fan service. That's all it was.
Yeah, I know. That's all it was. But anyways, as the fights continue and people get defeated, like the one thing I forgot to mention earlier was like Cyrax, when he dies or is defeated, there's like a little dragon tattoo that like terrible CGI pops up and then it just like teleports away. It's kind of like supposed to be a sign from the people who are directly under the service of Shinnok, right? Or descendants of Shinnok, or one of the two, right?
Yeah.
So Melina dies or is defeated. Jax defeats this like god awful like CGI monster thing. I don't even know what it is. And then we cut to Lord Raiden, who's asking the Elder Gods why this is happening. And the Elder Gods are like, "Do you think the mortals are worth saving for? And are you going to give up your immortality?" And no answer, but then obviously as we cut out from that to the scene where all the other heroes are showing up, Lord Raiden has a whole new look. And it's just like, really? You cut your hair? Like, yeah. I wasn't a fan of that, but at the time, I don't know about you.
He looked like an older version of Vanilla Ice. It was very weird. Very weird to me.
Oh, yeah. So, anyways, Raiden shows up. Obviously looks different, which is a sign that he's losing his powers, his immortality, and they're being hounded by Shao Kahn and the forces of Outworld. And basically, they were kind of like tricked into going to Outworld, right? They took a teleport. The last bit of Raiden's power went to Outworld. So, okay, they get to Outworld and they're trying to find what is it? Sindel. To meet up with Katana and like bring everything back to normal. But then they get interrupted with a bunch of fights here. Now, this portion is why I say this is super cheesy and why the movie's not good. This is the portion where Raiden, now his mortal form, is fighting a bunch of ninjas, right? And this is the point where the ninjas and Remar's stunt double, who, by the way, was Ray Park. And if you guys know who Ray Park is, he's the guy, he played Darth Maul in the Phantom Menace. So like this was his first movie where he started out as like a stunt double with all the martial arts and stuff. But anyways, the ninjas and Ray Park are just doing rounds of kicks back and forth all over the place. Like there's that one scene where they're just doing roundhouse kicks to each other, but they're not even hitting each other. And just the camera's there for like 3 seconds. And you're just like, why? Like, why?
Just do what they can do.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, like, I understand for other people who like are very heavily into martial arts, they consider martial arts as like an art form, like a dance, but not. Yeah. But for a movie where I don't know, it just didn't feel right to me, and that's where like the movie completely lost me. For me, it's just like, oh, this is just god awful. But anyways, so Raiden kicks the crap out of the ninjas, and then we're back to the main story where Lady Sindel is quote unquote dead. And Katana's here reuniting her to be the key to the story, right? Well, that was a lie, right? Jay turns out to be a traitor, and now the merger between Outworld and Earth is almost complete. It's Yeah, God, we'll have some highlights of what we mean by just awful acting in a second here.
Yeah.
All right, and then this is the point where we get some exposition. We find out that Raiden and Shao Kahn are brothers. I don't even. Yeah, tell me what you thought when you heard that story or that revelation.
As a kid, I was like, "Oh wow, that's so great." But then, like, getting older, it's like, "Huh, okay." Because I, if I remember correctly, that's part of Mortal Kombat lore in general. But at the same time, I'm like, that's such a weird thing. Like, I get it, but it's unnecessary in the lore, in my opinion.
What I think makes it worse is just like it feels like an afterthought because at the very least, when they first fought, like Raiden and Shao Kahn in the beginning of the movie, they could have made some reference to it, the fact that they were brothers, something, but because they throw it in here and you look back, you're like, well, that doesn't really make sense. It doesn't track together. So it just feels like it was an afterthought, and that's why it's just like, like
they were talking about the family crest and all that, and
right. Okay, so anyways, so they realize that Sindel plus Katana is not going to save them, so they have to fight them, and this is where we get to the end of the movie, where they meet each other at the pinnacle, and they need to fight. So Raiden fights Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn throws one blast, practically kills Raiden, and now we have the standoff: Jax versus Motaro, Katana versus Sindel, Sonya versus Ermac, and is that Noob Saibot too, or who'd you say it was?
So, like, during that fight scene, Ermac doesn't split into two, but Ermac is fighting her, and then Noob Saibot appears.
Yep. Okay. And then at the end, we got Liu Kang versus Shao Kahn, right? So, yeah, this is the typical moment where, the heroes are fighting, they're starting to win a little bit, and then they start to lose, and then they need to, quote unquote, learn their lesson in order to defeat their opponents, right? So, Jax learns that he doesn't need his robotic enhancements to be strong, so he strips the remaining one arm off and then starts to fight Motaro on his own and beats him up. And that one shot where he uppercuts Motaro looks real bad, like real bad.
My God.
And then like Sonya by herself, she's like always wants to do things on her own, and then she learns that she needs to ask for help from other people. So in this case, Jax, and Jax saves her. And then Katana needs to save her mom instead of kill her, so she saves her, like subdues her and saves her. And the CGI is it gets worse here because when Liu Kang and Shao Kahn like get to it. They pull in the animality. Oh man, like what executive saw this animation and said, "Yep, that looks good. Greenlight it." Like
I'm just bewildered because again, as a kid, I didn't think it was that bad.
Yes, yeah.
But looking back on it now and rewatching it, I sat there with my face in my hands, just like, no, this can't be what happens. Like, I could get past bad acting, I can get past some bad CGI, but this was, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it looked real bad. So Liu Kang beats up on Shao Kahn, and Shao Kahn's like actually mortally wounded. He's supposed to be immortal from Outworld, right? Then they find out that the Elder Gods have intervened, stopping Shinnok and Shao Kahn from completing the merger. But they're like, we will let this be decided by Mortal Kombat. It's like, what?
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and so off again, the theme song plays, they fight, Liu Kang wins, Earth is restored, then everything goes back to normal. Sonya and Jax are on good terms, Sindel and Katana are back to being a lovely family. Liu Kang gets his girl, Katana, and then Lord Raiden, who was dead, is now ascended to being one of the Elder Gods. And that is the end of Mortal Kombat Annihilation. All right, so we did a quick wrap-up of the plot. What did you think, Tystra, of the plot?
Yeah, it's a ride going back to it after 20 years of not watching it, and I gotta tell you, man, It's funny in the way of like how we meme almost Dragon Ball Evolution for how bad it was. And as a kid, I didn't realize how bad it was, but now again, 20 years later, it's garbage. It's so bad, especially with the first movie not being the best movie out there, but being as good as it was. This felt like literally a downgrade, like to the lowest level. You went from a solid 8 to a solid 1. It was so bad.
Yeah, I mean, like we'll break it down in a couple categories here. Go over them briefly. Like the acting. Okay, I think you and I both can agree when we were like acting, and then we thought, hey, this wasn't very good acting. The very first scene we thought of was Katana's mom at the beginning, Sindel going, "Too bad, you will die."
Too bad you will die.
Just the delivery on that. And like Shao Kahn himself, I forget who the actor is, but let me double check here. But just like his delivery on, I know he's trying to like, ham it up and really bring it to it. Brian Thompson, that's the actor's name.
Yeah.
But it was just a little too over the top.
Prepare for final battle!
You know what I mean? Like Shang Tsung was hamming it up, but he played that well. You know what I mean? But Shao Kahn here, he missed the mark, right? So again, a lot of the acting, again, we had some of the old actors back, like Liu Kang again with Robin Shao. He was really good still. Katana is always, she was always been okay with me. James Remar did all right, but I wasn't a fan of Jax or the new Sonya. Of course, Johnny Cage was there for literally like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the acting, or fighting, or acting, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, see, honestly, my biggest thing was Jade. Like, just, like, at the beginning with Jade, like, it felt okay. I was like, okay, she's, like, the soft-spoken character, and how Jade is in the games, like, that's kind of how she is. Not really soft-spoken per se, but more calm and all that. And then, just later on in the movie, Jade just goes, "It was so easy." And I'm like,
It was so easy.
this turned from okay acting to just what just happened on the
Yeah.
screen.
Where you're snickering and sneering and being like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's the acting, it is what it is. I think the budget for this movie was $30 million, but I'm pretty sure they didn't pay more for the CGI or the actors. I'm pretty sure because like Mortal Kombat was heating up as a franchise in the video games and in like the social sphere. I'm pretty sure whoever owns Mortal Kombat was like, I want more money out of this. Give me a little more money, right? So that kind of makes sense where even though the budget was bigger, like they got 50% more budget, 50% wasn't added to the movie. You know what I mean? So yeah, look, like I said, movie made about $50 million on a $30 million budget internationally, which again, based on the math, they lost money on this movie, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, the first Mortal Kombat was good. This one wasn't great as a follow-up. But you know what? Here's a little tidbit you guys didn't know. There was actually supposed to be a third Mortal Kombat movie in the works. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know entirely about it, but I did hear like rumors about it. When I not when I was a kid, but later on when I was like, oh, there was supposed to be a third one. And the plot for it kind of lines up with how the actual mainstay series of games work too.
Yeah, so it was supposed to be Christopher Lambert back as Lord Raiden, and then Lyndon Ashby, the guy who played the original Johnny Cage, he was supposed to come back and be resurrected and help fight against Quan Chi and a new resurrected Shang Tsung. Like, that was the plan. But unfortunately, like, the movie had been put off of production for a while, and when they started going into production, and I think in the late mid-2000s, like 2006, 2007, Katrina hit and destroyed all the sets. So at that point, New Line was like, well, we're kind of starting. We didn't spend that much money. Time to cut our losses and move on. The last Mortal Kombat didn't do well. Maybe this is a good sign, right? So From then on, we didn't have any more theatrical movies. We've had some other things come by, and the next thing we'll talk about, which you guys should be staying tuned for, is Mortal Kombat Legacy, which is a bunch of web shorts that happened in 2010. But we'll talk about that in the next review. Anything you want to say about Mortal Kombat Annihilation before we head off here?
I am really glad that we do not have to do another review of this ever again. Or at least that's my hope. Unless they want to do live reviews. Because honestly, I don't think I can rewatch this again. I just can't.
Yeah, this was what I would call not a great, enjoyable watch. I can always watch the first Mortal Kombat and have some fun with it, as cheesy as it is. But this one, it's just like, no, I'm gonna pass on this one every time. So, you guys let us know down below what your thoughts are on Mortal Kombat Annihilation if you've actually seen it. I'm assuming most of you were just being born around that time in '97. But let us know what you guys' thoughts are. If you like the video, again, hit that like button and stay tuned for our next review of Mortal Kombat Legacy. On behalf of myself and Tystra with 5-9 Gaming, thanks a lot, guys. We'll catch you all next time. We're out.